We can now go to Bodrum to speak to retired Turkish Ambassador Cengiz Fırat. Thank you so much for joining me, Ambassador. I appreciate it. So Zelenskyy says Erdogan agrees that Crimea is Ukrainian territory. Crimea has been a massive sticking point in reaching a ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia. And from my previous conversation, we know that this is a complex set of negotiations. What do you make of these comments from Erdogan?
I think President Erdogan has been very outspoken about this from the onset. As Turkey, we've never accepted the annexation of Crimea. Crimea is part and parcel of Ukraine. And no matter what happens in the ceasefire negotiations, Crimea will be part of those negotiations. But as President Zelenskyy stated today, it's not up for negotiation. It's a sovereign part of Ukraine, and it will remain as such. And this is the way President Erdogan also sees it. What's important in today's negotiations, maybe I'll just like to add a little bit to the previous speaker. I see it from a little bit different nuance. I think we're on the right track. We need to have calm heads. When you look at the Russian delegation, it was interesting what they mentioned today. They said they see this as the third meeting that is taking place in Istanbul. So they're seeing this as technical. They've stated that they're seeing this as technical level negotiations leading to a possible ceasefire. Let's build on that. I think President Zelenskyy was very right. He put everything out on the table and he said, I'll be there if you're going to come. And if you look at it from the point of view of the Russians, they said, well, we never said President Putin will be coming. So we have this game of who's going to lead which delegation, etc. And President Zelenskyy today, after speaking with President Erdogan, said, okay, I'll send a delegation to Istanbul, and it will be headed by my Minister of Defense, which is a quite high-ranking official in comparison to the Russian delegation that is already in Istanbul. I don't agree with the fact that President Zelenskyy should have met the Russian delegation that is there. That doesn't happen in international relations. In diplomacy, in politics, in high-level politics, a president doesn't go and meet technical-level people. So he was quite right in sending his Minister of Defense, which is already a higher-level delegation than the Russians. So let's see if this negotiation will take place, whether they will meet face-to-face after 3 years. It could happen tonight. It could happen tomorrow morning. We don't know. But what is good is that some sort of momentum has started. And it will build in diplomacy, in foreign relations, international relations. We've started this momentum, and I think it will carry on. What is needed, of course, President Trump, President Erdogan, Zelenskyy, they all want a 30-day ceasefire from which they can build a much-lasting ceasefire, maybe hopefully an end to the war, which we all want. This is where President Erdogan and Zelenskyy were concentrating on during their talks today in Ankara. And let's hope that the two delegations actually do meet face-to-face in Istanbul, or either today or tomorrow. It doesn't matter whether it's going to have an end result that we all want straight away. It's a process. It might take time, but it's a positive process as far as I see it.
So I understand that you have a more positive spin on this compared to my former guest, John, who said this was disastrous. Basically, everything has gone wrong when it comes to the meetings today between Ukraine and Russia. And you seem to put a positive spin on what's happening right now, forward momentum in these peace talks. But let's be honest, it's been nearly 4 years of war, of bloodshed, as Donald Trump said. Vladimir Putin is nowhere to be seen. Donald Trump didn't come because Putin didn't come. Zelenskyy wants to meet with high-level delegation team. He's there. So what do you propose? What's the next step towards a ceasefire?
I think we all want the same thing. I think we all want an end to the war. I think we're all on the side of peace. and as soon as possible, and negotiations to achieve that as soon as possible. How that's going to achieve is, I see it in this point of view, from this point of view. I think the pressure is on the Russian side entirely right now. I don't think Zelenskyy has lost anything. I don't think the Ukrainian side has lost anything. On the contrary, President Zelenskyy came to Turkey. He showed good faith. He said, I'm here, I'm willing to meet. But of course, as a head of state, he wants his counterpart. Okay, the Russian head of state wasn't here, but the Ukrainians also played the game well, as far as I can read it, and negotiations hopefully will start. It will be disastrous if there will be no negotiation. Then it will show that the Russian side is not ready for negotiations. That is where I would agree with the previous speaker. But going forward, we need to start face to face. This is the beginning of something. We can't say after 3-4 years of fighting each other in the trenches nonstop that suddenly with just one meeting you can finish everything. It's one-stop shop. It's not. It's a process. And I think we have enough pressure from the US, from President Trump, from the European Union, from all the sides, from the Gulf states, from Saudi Arabia, from all the countries, including Turkey, to make sure that everybody comes around the table. We shouldn't get bogged down on which level was the delegation headed, and did they come, did they not come? They will come at the end of the day, we're hoping. If it doesn't happen, of course, you could say it's disastrous. It didn't go well this time, but there's always a next time. It shows the willingness from both sides that, okay, enough pressure has built on both sides not to continue the war, and external pressure from other countries around the globe to tell them, listen, guys, calm down, please have a ceasefire and sit down for peaceful negotiations and settlement of this war. This is how I see it.
Can I just ask you something very briefly? And I want to ask you about NATO. NATO foreign ministers have been gathering in Turkey today. This is for informal talks about boosting defence across the alliance. Of course, we know that these are top conversations happening at the moment. Is Turkey prepared to boost its military spending? And would Turkish troops ever be on the ground in Ukraine?
As far as Turkey is concerned with this, well, diplomacy has been at the forefront in these last couple of days here in Turkey. You're right, the NATO ministers of foreign affairs, all of the Europeans, Marco Rubio included, are in Antalya, in a different city in Turkey. And what's happening is that they're deciding a couple of things. One of them is a huge boost in military spending. Rearmament for all of NATO member states, including Turkey. And Turkey has been doing quite well in its rearmament process, in its military industrial capacity building, etc. But now there's a decision that will be taken by the official, because today was an unofficial meeting in Antalya of the ministers of foreign affairs. But in the NATO official meeting, which will take place in, I think it's in July, if I'm not mistaken, they will take a decision to really put the ceiling really high for all NATO member countries, including Turkey. Concerning Ukraine, I'm not quite sure whether NATO will get involved on the ground with boots on the ground, but what Turkey has done is it's been very, very clear. The territorial integrity of Ukraine is very important for Turkey. Crimea, we have Crimean Tatars who are our kinsmen who live in Crimea, who've lived in Crimea for all the hundreds of years past, maybe thousands of years, and we support them as well. But we also have a very good relationship with Ukraine and with Russia, and we want them to stop. We want them to stop this bloody war, and it's been going on too long, and we all need to put pressure on both sides to stop it. I'm hoping that it doesn't boil down to further escalation in bloodshed, in fighting. As you pointed out, there's a possibility that that Russia will not stop. If that happens, what's on the cards? The European Union member states decided that they will put even further sanctions on Russia. And NATO has decided, and the Secretary General made it very clear yesterday in his press conference, that NATO will really build up its armaments, its defense capability to such an extent that if Russia thinks about doing something vis-a-vis NATO countries, it has to think not twice, 3 times, maybe 1,000 times, because it will be a total destruction of Russia. Therefore, when you look at things from that perspective, it looks very gloomy, but hard politics is being played out in terms of NATO-Russia relationship. But I'm hoping that things will not go down that lane, and I'm hoping that the international pressure will pay off and Russia will come to the table slowly, slowly. I don't think they will come straight away with Putin. I don't even think they will come straight away with a minister. It will start technical level, then ministerial level, then it will be with presidents involved. This is how I see it.
Cengiz Fırat, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your insights.
You're welcome.